But we actually only really began to take an interest 2 years ago when we were closing down the camp church at Ballykinler. And the font caught people's attention. It was just a rough stone at the back of the church, which had been set on a pedestal, and it's obviously been used to baptise, to christen generations of soldiers' children. So what was this stone, and where did it come from? Well, it was the organist who was playing at that service, a lady by the name of Nan Carson, who had played the organ in Ballykinler Church for over 50 years, right through the Troubles, who said, Padre, that stone came from a garden where it was a bird bath, but before that it came out of the old ruined church down on the shore beside the camp. To which everybody said, what ruined church down on the shore beside the camp? But Nan knew the direction to it, and we took a wander off down to the beach, and there, my goodness, was very little by this stage but a few stones marking a church which had been there for well over 1,000 years. And this stone had been lifted. It had been clearly taken care of for the last 30 or so years in the church, but it was of particular significance as an indication that pilgrims had come to that old church, potentially for centuries. So photographs eventually went to be seen by a professor at Queen's University, a professor of a subject that I hadn't heard of before called paleoecology, who confirmed it was a Boulogne stone, which attracts all sorts of legends. There's about 1,000 of them known in Ireland. They have myths that are telling you that the water that gathers in them has strange healing powers. They're supposed to have been used by the Druids to grind up special ingredients for their potions. But most likely of all, and particularly at the sites of these ancient churches, they were caused by pilgrims coming using a top stone on a boulder, grinding and turning the stone as they said their prayers. And over the decades, over the centuries, these hollows would emerge. They would gather water, of course, from rainwater, which then would be used as holy water. So it's a stoop in some respects, which is the fancy name for something that has holy water in it. And when they were deep enough, they were used for fonts, which of course is what was happening at the church at Ballykinler. But that still leaves the question, why would pilgrims have been coming to an old church down by the beach at Ballykinler? And the answer to that comes out of folklore and stories that were being told by people back in the 19th century, because passing writers were always being taken down to that beach, down close to that church by the locals, who would say, this is where St. Patrick landed in Ulster. Of course, we believe that actually that first landing happened out close to Saul at the River Slaney. But of course that wouldn't have been the only time Patrick landed. He would have travelled around quite a lot by boat. In many ways, Strangford Lough would have been his Lake Galilee. And for any given group of locals, the first time that he landed was going to be a momentous event, something that the story would have been passed down from generation to generation. Hence the church, hence the Boulogne stone, and hence the fact that there's actually a holy well beside this church, known as St. Patrick's Well. But the final piece of the puzzle is this. It wasn't just those obscure 19th century writers who'd picked up this story from their fathers and their grandfathers of the locals that Patrick had been here. If you turn to what people reckon is the greatest novel that's ever been written in English, if you turn to James Joyce's Ulysses, Joyce puts into the mouth of one of his characters this bit of speech. St. Patrick would have wanted to land again at Ballykinler and convert us. That stone is the last surviving artefact of a story that was once famous enough to rival the story of Saul as the landing place of Patrick in Ulster.